Good evening, 6:47 p.m. on August 27th, 2025. We are in week 3, and we're talking about medication errors and how can we prevent those, as well as the safety measures that we have in place. Tonight is lab makeup. It's the first of 2 next week as well, but there's in-class assignments that are required to be done. Um, Please check if your grade has not been entered in. I am missing your video, and I do need that prior to grading any work within the labs. Not allowed to grade unless I have them. There's a 2-part grading that is the science interactive, as well as the video itself with you demonstrating the experimentation. This is a university requirement as well as ASHP, which is the accreditation entity along with ABHES, um, to ensure that you are meeting the competency of that lab. I want to remind you that these videos are uploaded on the next morning and they are available for you to review. So if you are unable to make it for whatever reason, you have that video. You also have me as a resource. You can always reach out to me through Canvas messaging or email. I am here to help you with the material that we are going over each week. I do realize that it is quite a bit of information, but it is to help prepare you to be successful in the field that you are going to enter. This week, we are discussing, like I stated, medication rights and preventable errors, the root cause analysis of medication errors, step-by-step overview of filing and administration education, manufacturers' innovations to promote safety, medication error reporting systems, the FDA adverse reaction reporting system, safety and controlled substances, and then the final one is pharmaceutical temptations for abuse and theft. It is going to be an information-packed evening, and you'll have time to get that assignment done. You'll have time to work on your discussion if need be, or your response, as well as your labs if you are still needing to get those done and submitted. Like I stated, the videos are a required component. I cannot grade any science interactive work without those. It is a 2-for-1. If I do not have them, or I do not have the science interactive lab portion, either one, it will be a 0 at the end of the course in that lab. There is no way getting around that. It is a standard that the university has put in place for accreditation purposes. Also, as a reminder, we are finishing up really quickly here because we are in week 8. Next week, we have a in-class assignment that will require research. So you will be creating a document and answering certain questions, as well as formatting your references in APA format. So please review that. I have provided examples throughout the course. Um, I look forward to reading your assignments that week, and then you'll be preparing for the final exam as well in week 10, but week 9 also has that lab makeup. Let me just double check here really quick. I don't believe, but I want to double check. In week 9, besides that assignment and the lab makeup, we have a discussion question in regards to what we will be discussing. And then week 10, let's see here. We do have another discussion as well with the final exam. So it'll be a little bit lighter weeks, but the points for your assignment and the exam obviously are going to be higher. It is 6:53 p.m. on Wednesday, August 27th, week 8, and we are going to wait for our class to begin. Also, if you are done with your labs or you do finish your labs and you get the videos sent over to me, you will want to place that science kit up a little bit in a place that's high and not able to be accessed by children or animals, because you'll be using it in PTA 276, which is a lab course that will be following up shortly after this one. I'm not quite sure exactly um, if it's the next course or it's the course after that. So we do not want to get rid of anything. We want to place it up high so that when the next lab course comes around, you can just pull it down and continue. These lab kits are expensive to replace. That is why we suggest that as soon as you finish your labs, you are placing it up in an area where nobody can access it until your next lab course. Class begins in about 5 minutes now. And it came to my attention this past week that the repackaging lab link section for that submit that was not necessarily available. So please make sure that you send that to me via Canvas email. And then I will get that added into the comment area so that it is documented that it is there for grading purposes. But you do need to send it to me. And then if you could, if you send it through Canvas, if you could shoot me a quick email stating that that's what you did, that would also be great. Either way, I will definitely be checking. It's about 2 minutes prior to the start of the hour. Class will begin approximately 7 o'clock tonight. Just waiting for students to arrive. And just another reminder, it is measurement systems, inventory management, and repackaging that requires to have a video for grading purposes this time around. So double check to see in your grade book if you have a grade there, you are good to go. If you do not, I am missing your video. If you have obviously done the science interactive portion already, what I need you to do is redo the experiment as you did it and explain to me how did you go about, like measuring out or counting pills and filling out the form and so forth, and why is it important, as well as the calculations on the measurement system. Repackaging, obviously, you're just going to go through with how did you do the blister packaging? Why is it important? As well as the syringes, doing the calculations, and then um, how would you demonstrate doing a syringe? But the next time you come into the lab course, it will be really beneficial to you if you do this all at the same time and not have to go and backtrack. We are 1 minute prior to class. I'm gonna wait until about 5 after 7 o'clock to see if anybody pops into the course. If not, I will start the lecture so that you'll have a recording. Another reminder that these live class sessions are mandatory. They provide 40% of your grade. Um, and it's really beneficial because of the information, like I stated, as well as lab demonstration. All right, this is week 8. We are talking about medication error prevention and safety, and that was chapter 14 of your reading as well as the discussion forum. And our learning objectives is describing patient medication rights, the extent of preventable medication errors, and the effects of errors on patient safety and healthcare cost. We are identifying specific categories of medication errors, their causes, and how to avoid them. We are describing the various potential errors per each step of the dispensing process, and we are expected to be able to define FDA safety strategies to prevent adverse effects in high-risk drugs, including medication guide and REM programs. So the first section goes with the medication rights and preventable errors. And that was part of our discussion forum this week, was to list the 7 rights of how we would prior to dispensing the medication. And we know that that is the right patient, the right drug, the right strength, the right route and form, the right time, there's the right documentation, and the right education. So when we approach a patient either in the hospital pharmacy, if we are going to the bedside, we're always making sure that it's the right patient. Oh, somebody came in. Yay. Anna's here. Yay. All right. I thought I was going to be just talking to myself all night. All right. So I just started the lecture. I wasn't sure if anyone was going to show, but this week we just have that in class assignment. We have any labs that we need to make up. I need videos as well for the demonstration of the experiment submitted along with it. It came to my attention that the assignment for the lab link for this past week repackaging wasn't necessarily allowing to be placed in there. If that's the case, send me a Canvas message with that link, and I will add it into the comment section for documentation purposes. You have week 8 and week 9 to catch up on any labs. I will be here each week, going through the PowerPoint lecture and so forth and answering any questions. By week 10, at the end of that, if they're not submitted the link, the video link, as well as the science interactive work, both have to be submitted. Now remember that it will be a 0. Okay. And that obviously does affect your grade. So we want to try to avoid that. I don't like zeros. And I know students really don't like them either. So this week we were discussing about the 7 prescription rights and what we should be doing each and every time before we dispense, which is the right patient, right drug, right strength, right route and form, right time. And then they have 2 of here that are important as well, but that's usually like, it's the paperwork. So the right documentation and then the right education. So you're making sure that they're getting that pamphlet that usually gets handed out with every single medication. But if they need further information, we're sending them over to the pharmacist because it's not in our scope. Medication errors are preventable. They can be a preventable event. Inappropriate medication use becomes a medication error, patient harm, or an adverse drug reaction. Adverse drug reactions are reported. All of this actually is reported, but the adverse drug reaction is a very important one not to forget. There are no national laws, but 4 out of 250 prescriptions do result in a medication error, which is not doesn't really seem like a high percentage, but when you look at this, it says 65% of those errors result in a negative impact on the patient's health. They might get more sick, they might not be getting treated correctly for their condition. They might have hospitalization. And unfortunately, sometimes they a patient will die, and we want to try to avoid that. The next section talked about the root causes analysis of medication errors. And so we want to find out what is the error, where did it occur, and what caused the error. And there are three reasons why the error occurred, which could be an organizational failure. Maybe the process is not um, something, hiccuped with the computer system, or maybe the automatic dispensing system, technical failure. It could be, again, that computer or that ADS or something, that was giving us incorrect information, or human failure. And that's us. So here comes over to what causes of the human errors, and it's psychosocial causes. Incomplete information error. So we don't have all the information that we need. Something's missing off that prescription, which is what we did that one week when we were looking at the prescriptions and determining what was going on. Hello, Andrea. I just like to know who pops in when I'm talking because I don't know.
Yes,
Um,
I have been locked out of my account all day.
oh no.
I just now got into it. She said I got to get a temporary password to get into it. So I
Okay.
got home and trying to get in back in.
All right. So you did contact your advisor then.
Yeah, this
Okay.
morning. I tried to get on
Awesome.
this morning and it's like locked me out. It wouldn't let me in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, because I can't help you with that. Um, if you do reach out to me, I'm going to tell you you need to reach out to them.
Yeah,
Um,
I talked to Rachel and she sent me a temporary password and I had to reset my password and do this and that. So I
yeah, I
got it.
know.
That's why it took me so long to get back on.
Yeah, I get it. Okay. We're
All
just
right.
going, yeah, we're just going over the information that we read this week in chapter 14. The second reason why we might have an error by a human, by one of us, techs, would be an incorrect assumption error. So I actually sort of brought that up in the discussion forum when I asked, I believe you two ladies were the first two people in there, and you got the fun questions, as I call them. The questions that are going to make you think, right? What could happen if I were to choose, let's say, one medication that seems similar, looks alike, or sounds alike with another medication? It could create an issue with an adverse event. It could harm the patient, or it could create a hospitalization where the patient is not in really good shape. They might die. So, and actually, there was a case where that happened. And I sort of brought it up in that question as well. It had to do with the medication being titrated. It was supposed to be an increase in dose. And a lot of times you'll see that on the prescription. The doctor will scribble increase in dose because supposedly the patient's been on this medication for a while and they need to increase. We as techs, it's very important. Pharmacists will do the same if they have time, but most of the time it's going to be you looking through the past history of that patient's prescriptions to ensure that they were on a lower dose of that medication and the titration is correct. What was caught in that scenario is scary as hay. Um, the patient was never on that medication. It was actually a seizure medication versus another condition and would have really given detrimental harm or possibly ended the patient's life. Patient never got it. Patient never knew. It was one of those categories we'll go over in a minute. I did pull up some additional information, not that I don't think it's in the slide. Um, and the quandary that and it was a pharmacist who had extra downtime. However, I don't know how that happened because I've never met a pharmacist that has downtime. Caught it. Should she have informed the patient? She informed the doctor's office because she picked up the phone and called the doctor and said, "Hey, is this what you were supposed to prescribe?" No, it is not. It's supposed to be such and such. And it was caught by the pharmacist. Honestly, ethically, I do believe the patient should be informed that there was a caught, okay, because it is their health. But you also, you're on a little bit of a tightrope there. You're balancing between the professionalism between the pharmacy and the doctor's office. So it's going to be a call that is going to be made by the pharmacist, not by you. So then there's that whole selection error. Did we choose the correct medication? Did we choose the correct strength, the form? And then is the prescription being captured correctly, or was there an error in inputting it? Um, and we're going to go over some other things. Rushed error, we're going too fast sometimes. We need to slow down. Distraction, somebody's talking and we're trying to do something and we get distracted. It's like, I always call it my squirrel moment. Um, because I usually have 20,000 things going on in a day and I don't always pay fully attention to certain areas. But when you're handling medication, you need to pay attention. And then the fear of making an error. I always go back to my example when I started off and I had patches. It's easy to make a mistake with patches because they can either be daily, change them out daily, they could be changed out weekly or changed out every 72 hours. So you really do need to make sure that you are paying attention to that. So I never wanted to do patches after that because thankfully my pharmacist was great and caught it before it went out. Again, the patient never knew, but it could have been an issue. Um, Certain states also have an automatic reporting system on that. Arizona at the time, it was called STARS. I'm sure it's still STARS. So those are the areas that we need to be aware of for that. And we went through those with all some. I'm just going, I did not go through each one. I just went through each one of these. I just didn't change the slide, PowerPoint. This is the step-by-step task analyst of prescription filling. So this is very important as well. We're going during the computer order entry and printing of the label. That is, we're entering the prescription. Very rarely are you going to see a handwritten one, but you will. Most of them are e-scribed, if I can talk tonight, or sent over by fax. And if there's ever a time where you get a prescription that is handwritten and you can't read something or you don't quite can't figure it out, always ask the pharmacist or your lead tech. So when the medication is taken from the shelf, when we verify, we were going to verify that NDC number and a barcode scan to make sure that it's correct. And then during the counting of the dosage. So this could be patient or caregiver drug administration errors. Wrong time. If it's supposed to be in the morning and they give it, let's say it's closer to lunch. Or it's supposed to be at bedtime and they gave it at noon. An extra dose error, it happens. Sometimes I look at something I have to take and I'm like, did I take it? And then I have to either go with, no, I did not take it to take one, or I think I took it and I'm not going to. And I usually err on the side of I'm not taking another dose because I think it's going to be an extra dose in my system. And then omission error. So we have kept something off that prescription label that is very vital. Maybe it's like do not crush. Don't crush the tablet. A lot of people like to crush tablets for some reason. Um, a step-by-step overview of filling and administration education. we receive and review the prescription. We are going to check it for, is it readable? We're going to make sure the prescriber's information is all there. And the patient's information. They're not necessarily going to have the address and everything of the patient on that, but it should have the patient's name and their date of birth. Excuse me. And then there is going to be medication information. So it's going to have the name brand or the generic, and it's going to have the dosage. It's going to have the form on there. And then it's going to have a SIG. Now this is a very helpful chart for you to review, and I will locate my copy that has a lot more than just this on there. Um, this is on the do not use list, and this is very important that you are aware that they can get confusing, they get mistaken for things. I've never liked this U for unit, either upper or lower case, because it can be mistaken for a 0. I think it looks like 2 1s, to tell you the truth. A number 4, or it can look like a CC. They're asking you to write out unit instead. And it should be written as unit. So like on the it would probably be like more like insulin. You're gonna see it's gonna say something like take 44 units subcutaneously, um, twice a day, once a day with meals or whatever. That probably not correct. IU stands for international unit. It can be mistaken for IV or 10. Again, they want you to write out the full words. Now, you will see a lot of doctors still use the QD, the QOD, but they can be mistaken for other meanings. But most pharmacies are, equipped at understand. Okay, QD is daily. But we're gonna write out daily on the prescription because patients don't necessarily know. And then the QOD again as well, because sometimes that period after the Q is mistaken for, I don't mistake it for an I. I mistake it for, I don't know what I mistake it for. And the O might be mistaken for an I as well. So we're going to write out every other day. This is a big one, trailing zeros. We don't want any 0 after a decimal point unless there is another number that follows it. The only time we will have that trailing 0 is when we are reporting a laboratory result. Like maybe it is A1C, AB, it's a sugar level. Or maybe it's a cholesterol level, or it's that kind of lab result. Because you are not always going to see that decimal point, so we're going to write out 10 milligrams instead of 10.0 milligrams. The lack of a leading 0. So again, the decimal point is missed, so we might dispense 10, or I'll say we might dispense 50 when it's supposed to be 0.5, 0.5. So that is why we will write out 0.5 milligrams. It just avoids any strength, the strength errors. So we want to make sure that we're not doing a dosage error. MS can mean either morphine sulfate or magnesium sulfate. It could also mean multiple sclerosis. It could mean so many different things in the medical field or pharmacy. So we're going to write out morphine sulfate. And then MSO to the 4th and MGSO to the 4th can be confused for one another. And we want to try to avoid, if possible, any formulas like that. So we're going to fully write out magnesium sulfate. Okay. So we're just going to make sure that we are following the do not use list and doing what they want us to do instead to avoid those mistakes. Any questions so far? Okay. Um, Jasmine, you have a couple labs that have not been graded. I am missing videos. I do need them. Okay? Thank you. You have until like end of week 10. Then I put zeros in and I don't want to. Step 2, we're going to enter that prescription into the computer. We're going to look, typically what ends up happening, unless it is written as do not substitute, dispense as written as a DAW code, we're going to probably be dispensing generic, but you're going to enter that prescription the way that it was written. The computer itself will default to the generic if it legally can. Dosages, we're going to make sure the dosages are correct. The formulations are correct. If it's a concentration, and the increment of measures. That is another area that could be an issue if I am pulling a solution off the shelf and let's say it is 5DSW20 and I accidentally pull off 5DSW30. It's going to, the concentration will be off and that will be a medication error. And that is usually in compounding or IVs. Step 3, you are going to perform a drug utilization review and resolve any medication issues. So there are going to be some medication issues that you'll be able to resolve, or DURs that you'll be able to resolve, as long as it is not interactions with other medications. Okay, that is a big one, and repetitive drug therapy. So one that you're prescribed one medication and another medication, and they actually treat the same condition and could cause a higher dosage in the patient's system. That should also be reviewed by the pharmacist. Dosing ranges is another area that they're going to probably want to look at to make sure that it's correct. Like I said, that example that I provided is on the prescription it says increasing dose. And there is no history of the medication in their um, prescriptions. We're going to want to question that because unless the patient has gone to another pharmacy. And then that's the other thing is the polypharmacy issue, and why we always prefer patients to use the same pharmacy. It's not that we want the money. Yep, revenue is always helpful, but it decreases the whole issue of, well, I had it filled at Rite Aid, and now I'm at CVS or Walgreens. And CVS and Walgreens can't see Rite Aid's system, just like CVS and Walgreens can't see one another. You're only going to be able to see the other system if you're in the same family. So, um, contradictions in pregnancy. That is something that should have been discussed with the doctor, but also brought to the pharmacist's attention. Existing allergies. If a medication is flagged in the system saying the patient is allergic to that medication, that family of medications. So let's say my husband goes in, he has a prescription for penicillin, that system is going to flag it and say, he's allergic. He can't take that. We're going to bring it to the pharmacist's attention. So in reality, you're pretty much bringing all these to the attention. But the pharmacist is probably going to say, okay, we need to call, this is an antibiotic, it's a non-controlled medication. We need to call the doctor's office. I'm busy right now doing ABC. Can you please do that? And you will be able to call up the provider's office, verify HIPAA with them so that they will provide you with somebody who can speak on an alternate medication that can be dispensed to the patient. Maybe they're not aware that Matthew is allergic to penicillin. Um, and then, of course, alert fatigue. So that is going to fall into your ancillary labels. You're going to have do not take this medication while driving or operating heavy machinery may cause fatigue. Um, and there are many more, but that is that one there. You're gonna definitely want to alert the fact that that's going to be part of the education process. That you're going to say, this medication could cause you to feel more fatigued than normal. Please do not drive a vehicle or handle heavy machinery on it. Okay, so this one, step 4, is generating that label. Is the patient's information correct? Remember, right, patient, label, prescription identical. Is the prescription matching it? So do we have the correct medication name, the strength, the form? Was it prescribed as a tablet or was it prescribed as a capsule? It makes a difference. You would think not, but it really does. Um, is the SIG correct? So a lot of times what will happen is you'll get a prescription. It'll have all the little funky little abbreviations. You're going to have to know what those abbreviations mean and decipher that in whole words. So, instead of going TK1TPOBID, I'm going to type that out as take one tablet by mouth twice a day. Because patients don't know what those abbreviations mean. Um, are there any leading or trailing zeros that should be there or not there? So obviously, leading zeros, is it a 0.5 milligram tablet or is it a 5 milligram tablet? Um, or is it, because it could be written as 5.0, which is, or 0, which can create an issue thinking that it's a 50 milligram tablet that needs to be dispensed. And do all the data elements on that label match? So remember, we're going to have the pharmacy information where they can call us to ask a question. They can call us to refill the medication. Our address is going to be there. It's going to have their information on there, a prescription number on there. It's going to have prescribed by the doctor, how many refills are left, does all that information, and of course, obviously, the medication and the SIG. Does all that information on that label match? So we're making sure. Because the next step, we're going to then retrieve medication. We're going to use the NDC code, which is the National Drug Code, matching up to the correct medication, and the barcode scanning. Those are your 2 checks, your 2 double checks. I always say double check. Does the manufacturer's label match the medication that the doctor prescribed? Your look-alike and your same look-alike and sound alike, if I can talk tonight, need to match because you can get confused. Does the label match the product container? That's another check. Dose strength, is that correct? And of course, then does the NDC numbers match? Well, you'll find that there's going to be a medication. It's going to have an NDC that's required for insurance, but it's not available to you. You will then call around your chain of pharmacies, if it's a chain, to see if somebody else has it so they can fill it. Or you might have to send the patient to another pharmacy, which does happen occasionally. And somebody else came in. Okay. Martha, I am missing your uh, lab video for measurement systems and repackaging. You'll need to walk through the experiment and videotape yourself explaining the process. Okay? Otherwise, I cannot grade it.
Okay, thank you. I was going to talk to you about that too. It's been a
Yeah.
crazy couple of weeks.
Oh, I know. I understand
Yeah.
completely. I do.
Yeah, but I'll have at least one of them for you tonight.
All right. That sounds good.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Then step 6 is going to be compound or fill the prescription. So if you're compounding, you're making sure that you have the correct increment of the measure. You're going to make sure your measurement conversions are correct. You're going to reach out to somebody to overlook, check, double check. Is the equipment calibrated correctly and cleaned correctly before starting? And do you have the appropriate warning labels? We discussed that one is about how, don't use this medication if you're going to drive a car or use heavy equipment. There's other ones as well, as in like, um, you know, store at room temperature away from sunlight or store in the refrigerator. Those kind of warning labels, or keep out of the reach of children is a really fun one. But it's important. Okay, and the next slide, obtain a pharmacist review and approval. They will check everything over. They're going to make sure, has the medication been prepared correctly? Is the prescription valid? Now, that's like a second double check on your work just to make sure that that prescription is, because it's a legal document. It's going to be held in the system. And if the prescriber were to come back and say, "Oh no, I never wrote that," the pharmacy would be able to pull it up and say, "But this is what we have." Is the patient information on it and the medication information, as well as the directions of use. And if there's any ancillary labels that we need to have placed on there, is that there as well? So then you're going to store that completed prescription in a well-organized system. Usually you have like little baskets A through Z. Your computer is going to have a backup database. If it needs to be in a temperature-controlled system, most pharmacies have that for the whole section because medications need to be in a controlled area. And then there's going to be medication guides that you are going to attach to that bag. So when the patient comes to pick it up and you HIPAA verify them and you hand it off and they pay and so forth and leave, they have that information. If they have further questions, you can answer general questions, but any clinical questions, you will transfer them over to the pharmacist. You'll go and speak to your pharmacist. You'll say, "Hey, so-and-so has a question about this." And the pharmacist will then take a moment and go and talk to them. And then you're going to deliver the medication to the patient at the counter or the nursing unit for administration. A lot of questions are asked about these items. The new appearance. I took a pink circle pill. This is blue oval. They're not the same. It's the same medication. And you have a warning label for that. Medication might appear differently, but it's the same. But your older generation will call you, will stop you, will not leave the counter until you explain it to them to where they understand it. Is it the correct medication? So we know that that's where the nursing station is going to verify that, yep, that's what the doctor ordered in the strength, the form, and so forth. The instructions are there, expectations, which is your medication guide, and then everything that might need to be included for that nursing unit to administrate that medication is included with that delivery of it. So that might be tubing or maybe a syringe or so forth. I can't think of anything off the top of my head right now. So manufacturers' innovations to promote safety. I believe this is the last section, but improving medication safety. They use unique colors, different shapes, and distinguishing markings to make sure it helps patients and pharmacies to understand that, oh, what, this is that pill, right? This is that medication. And that's why when these things change, patients have a tendency to get really concerned. Um, and then patient education materials, which is very important, along with technology. Now, you might have to walk them through the technology issues, um, but most patients have somebody typically at the corner to do so. And then there are going to be, like I was stating before, in the state of Arizona, it's called STARS. I don't know if the state of Michigan has one, and they probably do. I just don't know what it's called. Medication error reporting systems. They're called MERS most of the time, but some of them have unique names specific. You have the Institute for Safe Medication Practices, ISMP. That is will house your medication errors reporting program, otherwise known as MERP, and vaccine errors reporting program, which is VERP. That's VERP. Those are going to be the two ones that you are going to be more familiar with. This is on the federal level. Arizona STARS is actually on the state level. So your state might have one at the state level, but you'll also have to report it to MERP or VERP. Vaccine errors are scarier than medication errors, and this chapter does not go through everything that could go wrong in a vaccine administration. And then the FDA adverse reaction reporting system, which is very, very important. Anytime a patient or a provider or a caregiver or a neighbor, maybe a sibling, maybe a child comes to you and says, my mom took such and such and had this happen. And it is, it's a reaction, an adverse reaction. You will need to report it. And you will follow your pharmacy's guidelines. And it can be from anything from a rash, maybe it's vomiting, maybe it's a severe headache, maybe it's dizzy spells, maybe, they fell. Anything that isn't after they've taken that medication that can be considered an adverse event, you will be reporting it to the FAERS, which stands for FDA Adverse Event Reporting System. Another system that they have is MedWatch. And again, here we go again. Here is your VAERS or Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. These are different than the error reporting. These are going to be more, the patient had an issue with the medication, something bad happened, or something that required intervention, maybe stopping the medication, maybe seeing a physician off hours at either an urgent care or emergency room, or just walking into the pharmacy and saying this happened. You'll follow the policy. Safety and controlled substances. This one is a little bit scary to me. I've actually seen bad things happen, and this falls into that area. You always practice the safety and the procedures. Prescription and illegal drug abuse. It is a problem, not only in the pharmacy, but also out in the world. There is a drug tolerance. That it means I've taken medication for so long that my body has now said, okay, well, it's not going to work anymore because we're used to this and we are tolerating that drug. So I need more. That's not a good thing. There is a psychological dependence. My mind thinks I need it, but my condition that I was taking the medication for has cleared up. Physical dependence, again, it's just the dependence on the medication for a physical trait. And then my least favorite one is addiction. I can't stop taking the medication. And we all seen it maybe with not only prescription medication, but there might be maybe it's an illegal drug, or maybe alcohol is another one. It's legal, doesn't mean that's a good thing. Um, Pharmaceutical temptations for abuse and theft, like I stated. Pharmacies have a tendency to sometimes have a worker or two that might have a temptation for it, which might create a situation for abuse or, unfortunately, theft. Drug abuse in the health professions, more than 10% profess abuse problem. That is 1 in 10 people say, I have a problem. It creates a loss of your job, your respect, your integrity, loss of your license. Now, that could be a driver's license, that could be a pharmacy technician license. If you have another professional license, you're probably going to lose that too. And then loss of registration. And the registration typically means there is going to be quite a bit of documentation in the courts, as well as the board of pharmacy who issued you your license. And that is the end of that. What we're going to do is take 10 minutes on our break. And when we come back, I have one other thing to share with you. And then you'll be able to work on the in-class assignment, the discussion, the pre-test, or the chapter test this week. And I am here to answer any questions, okay? So take 10 minutes and then come back at, let's say 8 o'clock. Come back at 8. It's 15. Okay? right, we should all be coming back on camera. I did pull out some information of the textbook I wanted to go over with you as well. Actually, it's another edition. 'Cause I did it off the computer, but it still applies. And if you can see my screen, you see a draft of an email that I have set up. I can send this to you as well. It actually is really nice to have because it provides you with a list of more common errors that you will occur in a pharmacy, either a retail pharmacy or a hospital one, and they are pretty much both in both of them, but some will be more prevalent in a hospital pharmacy. And the first one is the compliance error. So we have medication adherence, which is typically how you're going to have it phrased to you from the provider's office or the pharmacist or maybe another healthcare professional. The patient is not taking the medication as prescribed. They are missing doses or just deciding, I don't have to take it anymore. I feel fine. That's going to be a compliance error. So it's not necessarily an error on you, as in saying like you did it, but the patient is not being compliant. We do need to be aware of those situations, and typically we find that out by casual conversation and doing medication reconciliation. Deteriorated drug error. That could be anything from contaminated drugs. They got there was like an issue in the pharmacy, and the medication got mixed with something that it should not have gotten mixed with, so it's deteriorating and it is not properly doing what it's supposed to do. It could be an expired medication. And that goes back to inventory management as well. We're going to make sure that we are rotating the stock so that the first in is the first out. Improper dose. Metformin is actually one of them that has an extended release and then it has its normal. It has different milligrams as well. So I could be prescribed metformin 25 milligram, but let's say I got 50 milligram instead. Or it's the extended release and it's not, it's supposed to be the immediate release. So that is another improper dose error. So that is an error. Monitoring. This is actually more in the hospital than anywhere else. And I'm going to pull the textbook that I pulled it out of over here. And it is failure to review medication that was prescribed for proper regimen. And that's why I say it's mostly in the hospital. This could possibly be maybe the patient's response to the medication isn't optimal and it needs to be adjusted. Maybe it needs to, we need to recognize any side effects that might be happening. And that might be something that then we have to bring to the attention of the doctor, or the nurse will be bringing it to the attention to the doctor. Omission error, anything that's missing. So if we don't have the correct syringe or we don't have the correct tubing or the correct medication, maybe it was dispensed as written and we had the generic and not the brand, that's going to be an omission. The prescribing error, typically that's going to fall on the provider, but it is our responsibility as techs in the pharmacy to make sure that everything is correct. Is it the correct medication? Is there history of titration? If there is no history of titration, we need to get clarification. If it's a sound-alike or look-alike medication, we want to make sure we're grabbing the correct one. So that could be a prescribing error as well. Unauthorized drug error. You're grabbing something that's not the correct drug. And that can happen with an ADS, which is automated dispensing systems. It might be you didn't scan the barcode or check the NDC. Wrong administration. Let's say I gave a medication intramuscularly when it was supposed to be subcutaneous. That would be a wrong administration error. wrong dosage form. Capsules and tablets are commonly switched. I don't understand why, but they do happen. And creams and ointments are another one. So we need to make sure that maybe it's a suppository that is being prescribed, but somebody grabs, a cream. Wrong drug prep. So we are prepping, it's usually a compound medication. We are prepping it wrong. Maybe I made a solution for somebody to take orally and swallow when it was supposed to be an IV. That could be detrimental to the patient as well. And then obviously the wrong time. Here are some categories of where these could possibly fall. It's good to know. And that's why I have it here, because they're categorized from A to I as an igloo. You have circumstances that have potential for causing errors. You're tired, you're rushing. That could cause an error. An error occurred but did not reach the patient. Let's say the pharmacist caught it or the lead tech caught it before it left. The error reached the patient but did not cause any harm. That does happen. And the patient is like, oh, this is incorrect. They know their medication. They know the directions. They listened to their doctor. They took notes. It does happen. Error reached. This should say, oh, no, it should say not. So error reached, it did not cause harm, but needed to be monitored or intervention needed to be provided to prove that no harm happened to that patient. Okay? Error reached did cause temporary harm, but also required monitoring or intervention. The error reached, it did cause harm, needed monitoring or intervention or hospitalization. So in the case of somebody getting maybe like a intramuscular injection, let's say maybe penicillin or something, and they're allergic, but then all of a sudden we have an allergic reaction, a rash, which would be an adverse event for them. It's going to require them to be hospitalized to reverse that medication out of the patient's body safely. Error occurred that may have contributed or resulted in temporary or permanent harm to the patient. H is error occurred that may have contributed to or resulted in harm to the patient, but it requires hospitalization to sustain life. Okay. So the last one is going to have contributed or resulted in the patient's death. We never want I, let alone H. I can send this out to you as well with a PowerPoint. And that's not an issue if you would like. Like I said, this is good to know. Sometimes I would get like this kind of information. I would then take it, print it, and make notes, or I would just make notes in the email, or edit kind of deal. Copy and paste into like a Word doc and do it that way if I had to. These will be things that your pharmacy would want you to know. Somebody messaged me. Tell me you can hear me. Oh, that would be nice. Okay. I'm like, where you can't hear me. Oh my gosh. Uh, uh, so, like I was stating, I'll send this out along with the PowerPoint, like I've been doing it each week. There are some housekeeping items that I need to restate. I know I've sort of stop myself a few times here. If you don't have a lab graded, that means I'm missing a video. Or maybe you haven't done the lab. I need them done. You have this week and next week. Those are lab makeup days. Well, anytime actually. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be on class day. There is, if you are finished and you sent me your videos and you have a grade in your grade book, you please, even when you're done and you've done that, please put your lab kit up high because 276 will come around eventually and you will be continuing on the other labs and you'll need that lab kit. These lab kits are expensive. You do not want to be charged out of pocket for it. This first kit was part of your tuition. The second kit will probably be charged to you. You don't want that. So put the lab kit up high. You have an in-class assignment. You have a pre-test and a chapter test this week. Next week, you'll have a discussion. You will have a in-class assignment, and it'll be your lab makeup day. That's it. Week 10, you'll have a discussion and your final exam. If you haven't started already, I always recommend that you make flashcards. And let's see here. We have probably not. Your last name is Whitfield. All right, and then we have Anna. Nope. All right, I'm going to do this through Canvas, actually. I'm just going to paste this and send it through Canvas like I did last week with the PowerPoint because it's going to be easier than trying to locate all your email addresses. I have your email address probably in my contact directory if you have emailed me before or I have received something from you. So let's go here. So what I want you to do for the remainder of the class is work on your discussion post if you haven't done that, or your response if you want to get ahead on that. Your in-class assignment, if you haven't done it, please get that done. If you have, great job. Your pre-test or your chapter test can also be worked on, or you can work on that video for that lab that is missing a video, or you can work on labs by itself. And I will get this sent to you guys just shortly. Here, let me pull up my inbox. And remember, you can always contact me by email or by Canvas. If you do send a Canvas message, most times it does send it straight to my email. And that's always helpful. Let me see here. Chapter desktop. Any questions or concerns on the material that we're going over this week? Because it's a very important one. And please come off mute if you do have a question. Because I can't see your faces right now. And the last thing I also want to state then is that make sure, like I said, it's very important that you have both portions submitted to me. And the reason why I say this is because I cannot grade unless I have both parts. If I don't have both parts at the end of week 10, it becomes a 0. That is going to adversely affect your grade. And most likely you might have to retake this course, and I don't think anybody has time for that. I know when I did my education, because I did it all through online as well, having to retake a course, which I never had to, thank goodness, is not fun. And I want you guys to be successful, but I also want you to be able to understand the material. Hopefully that makes sense. Right? Okay, and I'm going to stop sharing. And like I said, if you have any questions, that you should have received that by now. That did go to your Canvas inbox. And I am not sharing my screen anymore, so I can flip over to the other thing because I do believe there is one, and it's probably the same one that has provided me with every single thing this week. Miss Andrea, go have a great night.
Good night.
Night. Anyone else just work on what you're working on, and I'm here to answer any questions if you have. The other thing I want to state is that this video is always uploaded the next morning, and you're able to review it at any time you want. But I always say take advantage of this time to catch up on anything that you need to and ask questions if you have any. Class is about another 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 30 minutes. And then you'll be free to go. It's just that if there is absolutely nothing that you need to do, I will dismiss you early. But in this case, from what I've seen, that is not necessarily what's going on right now. Click. So what I am more concerned about is you getting your lab videos done or submitted to me. Oh, that's what I wanted to say. The repackaging video. Um, it came to my attention that that link to send it through, like, so it gets like marked in the books that's saying that it's there for me, right? Is not necessarily working for that week. In that case, send it to me in Canvas message. And I will add it to the comments so you get credit. All right. Let's see here. All right. So I got, yep. Okay. That's good. And I do see you have your discussion down. Jasmine, you may go if you would like to get some of that work done. Since you have to be off of like camera with me to do the video. Okay. You have a good night.
Thank you, you too.
Mm-hmm. Okay, and just so I'm checking. And then just remember that the response, the pre-test and the test itself are due by Saturday at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you want to work on like the lab or the response, that's fine. Test also, that's fine. I do see most of you guys are working ahead on the assignment, which is great. I don't have a problem with that. But next week it's going to be different. It'll be available to you to look at and start, but you're going to have to do some research. It's like a paper. You got to write in a document and send it that way. That's what I wanted to check this really quick. So, is there any questions or concerns on the labs that you do need to do? Now, if it's a video itself, it's just you walking me through the step by step of the demonstration of the experiment. But if it's a lab itself that you have not done, is there anything I can answer? Okay. All right. So, the only thing I absolutely do need before the class ends is that in-class assignment to be completed. And if that's the case and you have no questions, then you can work on the lab and so forth. If you want to go off camera, that's okay. But I do need that one done because that needs to be done by the end of class time. And like I said, it's just that pretty much that in-class assignment is pretty much the PowerPoint I went through with you guys. So, and you can take it as many times as you need, um, if you want to get a better score. And were you in class last week, Martha?
No, I was not.
Okay, do you understand the repackaging lab? Do you want me to go over it with you?
The repackaging, yes. The most that I'd be confused with is probably the formulas more than anything, because I struggle
Okay.
with that. But anything that's like probably common sense or you could just read, I get the most. That's why I
Yeah,
threw them on the
yeah.
struggle last week.
Yeah. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna pull it up and I'll share my screen. I just realized I'm like, I don't know if you were in class last week.
Mhm. It's
Oh,
that I have. Sometimes I be thinking yours is Thursday, and then when I come home, I like look.
no, it's Wednesday. And like I said, the videos are always there for you, but we can definitely go over it again here.
That's fine.
Yeah. So typically pretty much with this, let me get here, share my screen. Um, let me close that first before I do that. All right. So blister packaging is pretty easy when you go in there. You're just going to be reading it and then following the directions here. Just make sure that um, when you do this, there's like a hard plastic. That's where the pills go. On the back, it's going to have all the information you'll need to fill in, which is right up here in the scenario. Okay. Um, And then you're going to pull back the backing of the cardboard thing that you wrote this information on, right? And then that is what you're going to match up with the notches to put on the blister pack backing. Okay. And then it's going to ask you for the photos. It's going to look like this. Photo 1 is going to be the backing with the information that's up there. And then photo 2 is going to be the front. And then you'll have a data table where you'll take that information you got from the top and you're going to plop that in. So it's always going to be the date you do it, the medication strength, the lot number, the quantity, the expiration date, and then your name.
Okay.
Okay, so then the syringes is where you are going to come to the formulas.
I got on it, and I'm like, I think I'm probably gonna have to talk to the teacher. I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah, nope, and that's what I'm here for. So we found out last week that the oral adapter sort of just popped into it. I don't understand why it's smaller than it should be and it's not good. So you're just going to follow these directions. What you're going to do is once you get here, this is the stock medication that you have, okay? In your data table, and we'll go to that in a second. There is another data table here somewhere. This last data table. You are going to put that stock medication right in here. Okay. And then you're going to have the date you do the lab, the lot number, and the expiration date is always going to be 1 year after, and then prepped by. The quantity that needs to be in this box is going to be what we calculate. Okay. So what we are going to do is you're going to have 100/5, right? Because that is our stock, right? Equals the 75/X because the top number here is milligrams, so we're going to match it with the milligrams. And then we don't know what the milliliter is, and so that's why it's X. Then you're going to cross multiply and divide. So you're going to have, you're going to have, let's see, 100 times X, or 100X equals 375, I believe is the math. And then you're going to just divide by 100 and you're going to get 3.75.
Okay.
And that is how you're going to do it with each of this. This is where you're going to find the doses that the doctor ordered. And you're going to create it into mLs. Okay.
What you're saying now, the class I had before this one, I had the same one, but I had number 1. And we was doing the same type of formulas, but I guess the paper that I got from you was different of how she taught it.
Oh. No, so literally this is what
You use the worksheet, the table to do the formula.
Oh,
She
yeah.
did the crisscross formula on the when we did pharmacy math.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. So I'm going to come here really quick here, show you here. Did it look like something? See, I teach differently than other teachers. Because I try to make it like this.
Yeah.
Okay, and then when you did that, you hit the beginning, you had this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's
That's
how you. Yeah, this is how you're gonna set it up.
okay.
Okay. I just always say you're gonna put it into fraction forms. You're gonna have the stock bottle, and then you're
Mm-hmm.
gonna have your known milligrams over X milliliters. It's the same thing. It's just a little bit different taught. Um, I try to make it as simple so that like my 10-year-old when she was going through school, well, she really didn't need my help because she was a robot. Uh,
That's how my daughter is.
yeah, so I mean, and my sons were a little bit, one was like a robot, but the other one, needed a little extra help, but that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
Not everybody learns the same way. I try to teach it in a way that everyone will understand.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, some people understand this and understand this whole, you know,
I
method.
actually, your way is easier. I guess trying to look at both ways and trying to incorporate was what was drawing me back.
Right. So that's why I do it that way. I just grab the stock bottle information and in my well, you can use a piece of paper and I do suggest you use a piece of paper to do the
Mm-hmm.
fractions so that you can get the correct. But yeah, it's just you're dividing it. Whatever is with X, you're dividing it to get it away from X.
Okay.
Yeah, get it
That
away
makes
from X. X is bad.
that makes sense. That makes a whole lot of sense.
Okay. And that's what you're going to do. And then what you're going to end up doing is answering the questions. Let's see here. Um, Go back to filling orange or syringes. I can't talk tonight. Um, and then what you're going to end up having here is you're going to have once you do the syringes and you um do the crushing and so forth because you're going to follow these directions, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
going to take a picture of the final syringe and you're going to have 4 of them,
Mm-hmm.
okay? That you'll have to have. And like I said, just videotape yourself. I just checked to see if you had done it yet and you hadn't. Videotape yourself while you're doing it. It'll be a lot easier than trying to videotape afterwards.
Okay, that makes
Okay.
sense. Mm-hmm.
And like I said, if that link is not working to send that video that way, just send it to me in a Canvas message.
Okay, I will.
All right, sounds good.
Thank you. I appreciate
Yeah, I try, like I said, I honestly feel like we make it difficult sometimes for people. We really do. And it's not necessary.
it. Yeah.
But here up in the very top of that exercise, you'll see the scenario and it will tell you exactly what you have in the
Mm-hmm.
stock, the company as well, the lot
Okay,
number. Okay.
thank you.
Mhm.
Yes, I have a question too, Patricia.
Go ahead. Go
Um,
ahead.
I'm on my lab that I'm on. I've been having a little bit of an issue. I'm on where you do the part where you can do the video and stuff. The very last part of the one I ain't done yet, and where you gotta do the labeling
Hold on a second. I'm
on the
looking, I'm looking, I'm
bottles.
looking, I'm looking, I'm looking. Oh, okay, yeah. Measurement systems.
Okay, what all do I exactly have? I couldn't really remember, and I didn't really understand it. What all I had
Okay.
to do on that part.
Yeah, not a problem. Let me pull up that
That
tape.
way I could get that video done and I could continue on because that's where I'm stuck. And I've been in the process of having to move and everything recently. So my hands has been full. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to catch up everything I have and I apologize for that.
No,
But I'm
no, no, no,
trying.
no, 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 no. I understand all that, but next time you get stuck like that, reach out, please.
Thank you.
Okay, because don't wait, because that's frustrating.
I apologize, but I appreciate it.
Oh, no, there's no need to apologize. I just don't know where my document went. Hold on a second. I'm looking for it. It did not pop up. Why didn't it pop up? That was rude. Not you.
I got you.
My
I hear you.
computer. All right, so we'll try it again. Stay up. Thank you. Let me put that down. Come here. Share button. Screen. Here we go. Okay, can you see the document?
Yes, I can.
Okay, perfect. Your label is going to have the following information, remember? So when you have the first prescription is 60% solution, right? So this would be
Yes.
60. And then it's going to be 80 ml, so this would be 80. Then you're just going to put the date and time that you did it, which is obviously probably tonight, right? And
Yes.
your name.
Okay.
That's all your label needs.
Okay. See,
I
I got a
know.
little confused there. I'm definitely going to have that done tonight. If I have any issues, then I'm going to reach
Right.
out to you tomorrow just to double check.
Okay,
if
so what
I
I
get
am
that.
going to, it will vary, like I said, by prescription, but I'm going to send this to you, through Canvas. How's that?
Thank you very much.
Oh, not a problem.
And I appreciate it. And I just got done doing one of my tests too. So I'm almost, I got one more week 8 test and I should be caught up on the test. And I've done my discussion and I've did my in-class assignment. So I'm
I-
trying to keep up.
I'm not worried about you, okay? You're the whole class has been great, okay? I have been placing zeros and things so that it would like get your attention, right?
Okay.
That is the reason why I've been putting that in there, just because I want you to know, hey, this is what it should look like.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to put zeros in. I hate zeros. I really do.
I do too. I'm not gonna lie to you. I usually I like learning and I like staying on it. And it's just been I didn't know we was gonna have to move, and then all of a sudden we
Oh,
had to move. So it's I done found the house and do all this, and now I've been packing for the past and now moving things from the next house to
mhm.
this house. And I'm just like, man, I ain't having my daughter with her kids where she works and then trying to keep up with the school too. But I got this. I got this.
You do. You're doing
And I
great.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Hmm.
And you have a good one, sweet.
You too. Now where is that? I'm gonna keep doing that. All right, both of you ladies can go and finish up what you're doing off the class link, and you have the great rest of your evening, okay?
You have a
You
great night.
too. Thank you.
You're
Thank
welcome. Bye.